The claiming hall was where broken omegas went to be sold. And as Senya stood among the discarded and forgotten, she kept her head down, her scent suppressed, her hope extinguished. She had learned long ago that hope was a luxury the unwanted could not afford. The other omegas wept or preened or prayed. Senya did none of these things. What was the point? She had been rejected by her fated mate in front of 300 witnesses. She had been declared defective, barren, and worthless. Her own father had dragged her here and collected his payment before the auction even began. No alpha would want her. No pack would claim her. She would be sold to the highest bidder as a servant, a bedwarmer, and a slave. That was her fate, and she had accepted it. Then the doors exploded open. Not one alpha entered, not two. 5. 5 alpha kings from the legendary Valdris throne, walking in formation like war itself had descended upon the hall. Their combined dominance crushed the air from the room. Omegas collapsed. Alphas stumbled backward. Even the auctioneer fell to his knees, and all 5 of them stopped directly in front of Senya. "Her," the first one said, his voice cold as winter tombs. "Her," the second agreed, scarred and silent. "Her," the third confirmed, golden eyes calculating. "Her," the fourth growled, wild and hungry. "Her," the fifth whispered, gentle as a blade sliding home. The hall erupted into chaos, because claiming an omega required 1 alpha, not 5, never 5. But the kings of Valdris had never followed anyone's rules, and Senya had no idea that choosing her would either save their kingdom or destroy them all. The claiming hall of Ashenmore had once been a temple. Now it served a different kind of worship, the exchange of flesh for coin, of omegas for power. Senya could smell the desperation in the air. It clung to everything, sour and sharp, mixing with the perfumes the other omegas had bathed in, trying to mask their fear. 23 of them had been lined up on the raised platform like livestock at market. 23 broken women hoping that today, someone might find them worthy. To her left stood an omega named Darinya, once the prized daughter of a merchant lord. A fire had taken her beauty 3 winters past, leaving half her face a ruin of melted flesh. No suitors had come for her after that. Not one. To her right stood Calix, barely 19, her belly swollen with a pup that didn't have a father, at least not one who would claim it. She had been cast out of her pack the moment they discovered her shame. And then there was Senya. She didn't know what category she fell into. Defective, they had called her. Barren. Omega wrong. But she wasn't scarred. She wasn't pregnant. She was simply empty. Her wolf had never surfaced properly. Her heats had never come. And on her mating night, when her fated mate Aldrich had tried to bond with her, nothing had happened. No connection, no spark, no bond. He had pulled away from her like she was diseased. And then he had stood before their entire pack and declared her broken. "The bond will not take," Aldrich had announced, his voice carrying through the great hall of Thornmere. "This omega is defective. I reject her, completely and irrevocably, as is my right." The pain had been extraordinary, not physical, but something deeper. Something that cracked through the center of her chest and never quite healed. She had collapsed right there on the dais, in front of everyone, her wolf howling inside her even though it had never properly awakened. That was 3 moons ago. Now she stood here, in a temple-turned-auction house, waiting to discover what remained of her life. "Lot 17, the auctioneer called out. His voice was bored, disinterested. He had done this hundreds of times. "Omega, 22 Summers, formerly of the Thornmere pack. Starting bid, 200 gold." Silence. Senya kept her eyes on the floor. She didn't need to look up to know that no hands had risen. 200 gold, the auctioneer repeated, a hint of irritation creeping in. "She's young. Healthy enough. Good teeth. Still nothing. Senya felt the familiar hollow ache in her chest. Even here, even among the unwanted, she was still the most unwanted of all. 100 gold, then, the auctioneer said with a sigh. Surely someone needs a house servant. The doors exploded inward, not opened, not pushed. Exploded as if the air itself had been punched. Every head in the room turned, every breath stopped. And then the pressure hit. Senya had felt alpha dominance before. She had grown up surrounded by it. But this was different. This was 5 rivers of power converging into a single flood, crushing the air from the room, pressing down on everyone present until even standing became difficult. 5 figures entered. The first was the tallest, silver-haired and cold, his eyes the pale gray of frozen lakes. He walked like winter itself, his presence dropping the temperature in the hall by several degrees. The second was scarred. A brutal line ran from his forehead, across his eye, down to his jaw. He didn't look at anyone. He didn't need to. His silence was its own kind of violence. The third had golden eyes that moved across the room like a predator assessing prey. Every detail catalogued, every weakness noted. The fourth was fire to the first one's ice. Red hair, wild smile, muscles coiled beneath his leathers like a wolf about to spring. And the fifth looked almost gentle. Brown hair, warm eyes, a healer's hands. But something in the way he moved suggested that softness could become something else entirely. The kings of Valdris, someone whispered. All 5 of them. Why are they here? The 5 kings walked directly toward the platform. They didn't look at the noble-born Omegas in the front rows. They didn't acknowledge the desperate beauties trying to catch their attention. They walked past every single woman in the room and stopped directly in front of Senya. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't move. 5 sets of eyes fixed upon her with an intensity that made her wolf, her dormant, broken wolf, suddenly stir for the first time in months. The silver-haired one spoke first, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. Her. Then the scarred one, a single word rumbling from his chest like thunder. Her. The golden-eyed one tilted his head, those calculating eyes never leaving her face. Her. The wild one grinned, all teeth and hunger. Her. And finally the 5th one, his voice soft but absolutely certain. Her. Chaos erupted. This is madness! The auctioneer scrambled backward, nearly falling off the platform. Your Majesties, an Omega cannot be claimed by 5 alphas. It is against every law of... We are not asking for your laws. The silver-haired king, the one called Castien, spoke without raising his voice. He didn't need to. We are telling you what is going to happen. Senya's heart hammered against her ribs. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. The 5 kings of Valdris were legends. Their kingdom had been ruled by their bloodline for 1,000 years. They were the most powerful alphas on the continent, perhaps in the world. And they had just claimed her. The broken one, the rejected one, the Omega that nobody wanted. There must be some mistake, she whispered. The scarred king, Varin, turned those dark eyes toward her. He said nothing. But something flickered in his gaze, something that looked almost like pain. There is no mistake. The golden-eyed one stepped closer. His scent washed over her, rich and complex, like ancient libraries and burning incense. I am Caius. I have studied every prophecy, every bloodline, and every potential candidate for the last 12 years. You are the one. The one what? Senya's voice cracked. The one who can save us. The wild king circled her like a predator, red hair catching the torchlight. Name's Fenrin, by the way, and you smell like thunderstorms and midnight. Did you know that? No, I didn't. Leave her be. The 5th one moved between Senya and Fenrin, his presence creating a strange bubble of calm. She's terrified. Can you not smell it? Fenrin's grin widened. Fear and something else, Rain. Something deeper. Something. Enough. Castian's voice sliced through the air. The other kings fell silent immediately. We are wasting time. He turned to face the auctioneer, who had gone pale as fresh snow. What is her price? Your Majesty, I cannot simply... What is her price? The auctioneer swallowed hard. 100 gold, for that particular lot. Castian reached into his coat and withdrew a pouch. He tossed it onto the ground at the auctioneer's feet. The pouch burst open, spilling gold coins across the wooden floor. There had to be 500 pieces, perhaps more. Keep the remainder, Castian said coldly, for your discretion. Before Senya could process what was happening, strong arms wrapped around her waist. Fenrin had lifted her off the platform as if she weighed nothing at all. Put me down. She struggled against his grip, but it was like fighting against stone. What are you doing? Where are you taking me? Home. Rain appeared at her side, his scent warm and soothing, cutting through her panic. We're taking you home, Senya. She froze. How do you know my name? Rain's expression flickered just for a moment into something else, something ancient and heavy with sorrow. We've known your name for a very long time. The 5 kings moved as one unit, carrying her toward the shattered doors. Behind them, the hall remained frozen in shock, no one daring to move, no one daring to stop them. But as they passed the front rows, Senya caught sight of a familiar face. Her blood turned to ice. Aldrich. Her former betrothed stood among the noble alphas, his handsome face twisted with confusion and rage. His eyes locked onto hers and his lips curled into a snarl. Wait. His voice rang out through the hall. That Omega is defective. I rejected her myself. She cannot bond. She is worthless to any alpha, let alone 5 kings. The kings stopped. Slowly, terrifyingly slowly, Castian turned. You rejected her? His voice was soft. That somehow made it worse. Aldrich lifted his chin, mistaking the softness for weakness. I did. On our mating night. She is barren, broken. Her wolf never properly formed. Whatever you think she is, I assure you, she is nothing. The temperature in the room plummeted. Frost began to form on the nearest windows. Senya watched in disbelief as ice crystals spread across the floor, radiating outward from where Castian stood. Thank you, Castian said quietly, for telling me who to kill first. Castian. Caius's voice cut through the tension. Not here. Not yet. Remember why we came. For a long moment, Castian didn't move. The ice continued to spread, creeping toward Aldrich's boots, and the alpha's arrogant expression finally began to crack. Then Castian turned away. Enjoy your remaining days, he said over his shoulder. I have a long memory. They swept out of the hall, taking Senya with them. Outside, a massive carriage waited, black as midnight and pulled by 6 white horses that seemed to shimmer in the fading light. The kings loaded her inside with surprising care, and then they were moving, the carriage lurching forward, leaving Ashenmore behind. Senya pressed herself into the corner of the velvet seat, her mind reeling. I don't understand, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Why me? What do you want from me? The 5 kings exchanged glances. Something passed between them, some unspoken communication that made her skin prickle with unease. It was Rain who finally answered, his warm eyes heavy with shadows. There is a curse upon our bloodline, he said softly. A curse that is killing us, slowly but certainly, and you, Senya, are the only one who can break it. Senya stared at him. How? Rain opened his mouth to respond, but Castian cut him off. That is enough for now. His gray eyes fixed upon her, cold and unreadable. Rest while you can. We will reach Valdris by nightfall. He turned to look out the window, effectively ending the conversation. but Senya caught something in his scent, something beneath the ice and dominance, something that smelled like fear. The most powerful alpha on the continent was afraid, and whatever he was afraid of, she was now at the center of it. The kingdom of Valdris rose from the mountains like a crown of stone and silver. Senya pressed her face to the carriage window, unable to look away. She had heard stories of this place. Everyone had. But the stories had not prepared her for the reality. 5 towers spiraled toward the sky, each one a different color of stone: white, black, gold, crimson, and deep forest green. They surrounded a central palace that gleamed in the setting sun, its walls carved with wolves running eternally through frozen moonlight. Beautiful, is it not? Caius leaned forward, his golden eyes reflecting the light. Each tower belongs to one of us. Each was built by the king who first claimed this land 1,000 years ago. Your ancestors, Senya murmured, our curse-bearers. Caius's voice held no bitterness, only weary acceptance. The first 5 brothers made a bargain they did not understand. We have been paying for it ever since. Senya wanted to ask more, but the carriage had begun to slow. They passed through gates of iron and silver, flanked by guards who dropped to their knees as the kings passed. Then they were inside, the carriage stopping in a courtyard of white marble. Rain opened the door and offered his hand. Welcome to Valdris, Senya. She took his hand carefully, stepping down onto the smooth stone. The air here was different, thin and cold and charged with something that made her dormant wolf stir restlessly. This way. Castian was already walking toward the palace entrance, not looking back to see if she followed. The other kings fell into formation around her, a protective square that felt more like a cage. They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. Tapestries lined the walls, depicting battles and coronations, and 5 wolves running beneath a blood-red moon. Servants bowed as they passed, their eyes curious, but carefully lowered. Finally, they stopped before a set of enormous doors, carved with the image of 5 thrones arranged in a circle. The Chamber of the 5. Varen spoke for the first time since leaving Ashen Moor. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. Where all decisions are made. The doors swung open. Senya's breath caught. The chamber was circular, dominated by 5 thrones arranged exactly as the carving had shown. Each throne was carved from the same stone as its corresponding tower: white, black, gold, and crimson, green. And above them all, painted across the domed ceiling, was a scene that made her blood run cold. 5 wolves, lying dead or dying, surrounded by frost and shadow. And standing over them, a single figure wreathed in fire. What is that? She whispered. The prophecy. Caius moved to stand beside her, following her gaze upward. Painted by the first courtier over 900 years ago, she saw the end of our line. The end? 5 brothers cursed, Caius recited, his voice taking on the cadence of ancient verse. To rule without rest, to reign without peace, no mate shall bond them, no heir shall follow, until the broken one comes, the one who was rejected, the one whose wolf sleeps, the one born of fire and silence. She alone will choose, to save them or to burn them, to love them or to let them die. Senya's legs gave out. Fenrin caught her before she hit the ground, his strong arms wrapping around her waist. Easy, he murmured against her hair. Breathe, little storm. That cannot be about me. Senya's voice shook. I am no one. I am nothing. My own wolf won't even wake. How could I possibly? You were rejected. Varen's scarred face appeared in front of her. Your wolf sleeps. You were born during the fire moon eclipse, which happens once every 500 years. And your mother? He paused, something flickering in his dark eyes. Your mother was of the old blood. My mother? Senya's confusion deepened. My mother died when I was 3. I barely remember her. We know, Rain's voice came from behind her. We have been watching over you since the day she passed, waiting until you were old enough, until the curse grew desperate enough, until I was rejected, Senya finished bitterly. Until I was broken enough to be bought at auction. Silence fell over the chamber. Then Castian stepped forward, his cold presence cutting through everything else. We are not your saviors, he said quietly. Do not mistake this for rescue. You have been brought here because the curse demands it. Because we are dying, all 5 of us, and every scholar, every healer, every witch we have consulted has said the same thing. Only the broken Omega can save us. And if I cannot? Castian's gray eyes locked onto hers. Then we die. Our kingdom falls, and everything our bloodline has built for 1,000 years turns to ash and memory. The weight of his words pressed down on her like a physical force. I did not ask for this. Senya's voice came out smaller than she intended. Neither did we. For just a moment, something cracked in Castian's icy composure. Something exhausted and ancient and desperately lonely flickered behind his eyes. Then it was gone, sealed away behind walls of frost. You will be given chambers, he continued, his tone formal once more. Servants will attend to your needs. Tomorrow, the bonding trials will begin. Bonding trials? The curse cannot be broken by mere proximity. Caius adjusted his spectacles, slipping back into scholarly explanation. You must bond with us, truly bond. A mate bond, forged in trust and other things. Fenrin's grin returned. He means love, little storm. The curse can only be broken by genuine love. Senya laughed, the sound hollow and cracked. You expect me to love 5 strangers? 5 kings who bought me at auction? We expect nothing. Rain moved closer, his warmth cutting through Castian's chill. We only hope. It is all we have left. Something in his voice, that quiet desperation masked by tenderness, made her chest ache in a way she didn't understand. A servant appeared at the chamber doors. The Omega's chambers are prepared, your majesties. Take her. Castian turned away, walking toward his white throne. Let her rest. Tomorrow will be difficult. Senya allowed herself to be led from the chamber. But at the threshold, she paused and looked back. All 5 kings had taken their thrones. All 5 sat rigid, their faces carved from stone, their sense carefully controlled. But she could see it now, the thing she had missed before. The white throne was cracked, thin fractures spreading through the stone like veins. The black throne was scorched, as if flames had licked at its surface. The gold throne's carvings were worn smooth, eroded by time or something worse. The crimson throne was stained dark in places, rust or dried blood. She couldn't tell. And the green throne had roots growing through it, as if the forest were slowly reclaiming what was left. They weren't just cursed, they were falling apart. All of them. Their thrones, their power, their very bodies. Senya turned and followed the servant down the corridor, her mind racing. She didn't know how to break curses. She didn't know how to save kings. Her own wolf wouldn't even wake for her. But as she walked through those ancient halls, she felt something stir in her chest. Something that wasn't quite hope. It felt, strangely, like purpose. The servant stopped before an ornate door. Your chambers, my lady. Is there anything you require? Just one thing. Senya met the woman's eyes. The curse that's killing them. How long do they have? The servant's face crumbled. The healers say weeks, my lady. Her voice was barely a whisper. Perhaps days. The King's Council wanted to bring you sooner, but the prophecy required the rejection. It required you to be broken first. She wiped at her eyes. Forgive me. You did not ask to bear this burden. She fled down the corridor before Senya could respond, leaving only the echo of her footsteps and the weight of impossible expectations. Senya stood alone, the enormity of everything crashing over her. Weeks, perhaps days, and she was supposed to love them. 5 strangers who had bought her like property, who needed her for a prophecy she didn't understand, who were dying because of a curse their ancestors had made. She pushed open the door to her chambers and stopped dead. On her bed, laid out with obvious care, was a gown of midnight blue silk, and beside it, a note written in 5 different hands. "We know you did not choose this. We know you owe us nothing. But if you would give us a chance, just one chance, to prove we are worth saving, meet us in the garden at moonrise. We will answer every question. We will hide nothing. And if after tonight you wish to leave, we will let you go." It was signed with 5 names: Castien, Varenne, Caius, Fenrin, Rain. Beneath the signatures, in that same hand she recognized as Rain's, was a final line. "Please." Senya sank onto the bed, the note clutched in her trembling hands. Outside her window the sun was setting. Moonrise was only hours away. The garden was not what Senya expected. She had imagined something cultivated and controlled, hedges trimmed into geometric shapes, flowers arranged by color and season. What she found instead was wildness barely contained, ancient trees with roots that broke through marble paths, flowers that glowed faintly in the moonlight, and a pond so still it looked like a mirror dropped from the sky. The 5 kings waited at the garden's heart, seated on stones arranged in a rough circle around a fire that burned without wood or smoke. Senya approached slowly, hyper-aware of the midnight silk sliding against her skin, of the way the moonlight caught the silver threads woven through the fabric. Someone had chosen this gown knowing exactly how she would look wearing it. "You came?" Rain rose first, relief flooding his scent. "We were not certain you would." "I almost didn't." Senya stopped at the edge of the circle, refusing to step inside. "But I have questions. You promised answers. And answers you shall have." Caius gestured to an empty stone between himself and Fenrin. "Please, sit." She hesitated, then crossed into the circle and lowered herself onto the stone. The fire's warmth was strange, neither hot nor cold, just present. "Ask," Castien commanded. He sat directly across from her, his silver hair loose around his shoulders, his gray eyes reflecting the unnatural flames. Senya had prepared a dozen questions during her hours of pacing, but only one mattered. "What exactly is this curse?" The kings exchanged glances. It was Caius who answered, his scholarly voice steady. 1,012 years ago, our ancestors made a bargain with an entity they did not understand. They called it the Pale Mother. She promised them power, dominion, and an unbreakable bloodline that would rule these mountains forever. In exchange, she asked for one thing. What thing? Love. Varen's rough voice scraped through the darkness. She asked them to surrender their capacity for love. Senya frowned. "But you can feel love. Wolves mate for life. It is our nature. We can feel desire." Fenrin's usual grin was absent. "We can feel loyalty, protectiveness, even obsession. But love, true love, the kind that completes a mate bond." He shook his head. "It has been denied to our bloodline since that first bargain." "Every king of Valdris has taken mates," Rain added softly. "But no bond has ever fully formed. Our queens have lived beside us, borne our children, grown old in our halls, but they have never felt the bond's completion, and neither have we." The fire crackled, casting strange shadows across their faces. "That is tragic," Senya said carefully, "but it does not sound like dying." "Because there is more." Castien leaned forward, his cold presence intensifying. "The Pale Mother did not simply take our love. She hoarded it. For 1,000 years she has fed on the love our bloodline should have felt. But 2 generations ago, something changed." "What changed?" "She grew hungry." Castian's jaw tightened. The love of unmated kings was not enough anymore. She began taking more. Our strength, our years, our wolves themselves. Senya's eyes widened. Your wolves? Mine is nearly gone. Varen lifted his hand, and Senya watched in horror as his fingers flickered, becoming transparent for just a moment before solidifying again. I can barely hold my physical form. By winter's end, I will fade entirely. My wolf sleeps constantly now. Rain's voice cracked. I can barely hear him anymore. It is like losing a part of my soul, piece by piece. I cannot shift without losing hours of memory. Caius removed his spectacles, revealing eyes that were not just golden but fractured, tiny cracks running through the irises like shattered glass. My mind is fragmenting. And I burn. Fenrin's hands clenched into fists. My wolf is not fading. He is consuming me. Every day the fire grows hotter. Eventually, I will combust from the inside. Only Castian remained silent. And you? Senya asked him. What is the curse taking from you? Castian held her gaze for a long moment. Then, slowly, he pulled aside the collar of his shirt. Senya gasped. Frost covered his chest, not on his skin but beneath it, spreading outward from his heart in delicate, deadly patterns. She could see it moving, creeping slowly toward his throat, toward his arms. I am freezing, he said simply, from the inside out. When the ice reaches my heart completely, I will die. He released his collar, hiding the horror beneath. Silence hung heavy over the garden. How long? Senya's voice was barely audible. Varen has perhaps a fortnight. Caius replaced his spectacles with trembling hands. I have a moon? Perhaps less. Rain and Fenrin have until summer's end, and Castian. I have days. Castian's voice betrayed nothing. A week at most. The world tilted beneath Senya's feet. And you think I can stop this? Me? The Omega whose wolf will not even wake? That is precisely why it must be you. Rain moved closer, his warmth cutting through the chill of revelation. The prophecy speaks of the broken one, the one whose wolf sleeps. Do you understand what that means? Senya shook her head. Your wolf is not broken. Rain's eyes held hers with desperate intensity. Your wolf is waiting, sleeping until the moment she is needed most. And when she wakes, Senya, when she finally wakes, he took a shuddering breath. She will be powerful enough to challenge even the Pale Mother herself. You cannot know that. We can. Caius pulled a small book from his coat, its pages yellowed with age. Your mother's bloodline, Senya. It has been hidden, suppressed, forgotten. But I traced it back 17 generations. Your mother was descended from the wolf primes, the original wolves who walked this land before humans, before kingdoms, before even the Pale Mother existed. The fire flared suddenly, casting wild shadows. You are not defective, Fenrin said, his voice raw. You are dormant, there is a difference. And when you wake, little storm, you will be magnificent. Senya's hands were shaking. This was too much, too fast, too impossible. What do you want from me? She whispered. Specifically, what must I do? The kings looked at each other. Then Castian spoke, his voice formal as a contract. Bond with us, truly. Open your heart to us and let us open ours to you. If genuine love forms between us, the curse will break. The Pale Mother will lose her hold, and our bloodline will finally be free. And if I cannot love you, if my heart refuses, then we die. Castian's expression didn't change. And you will be free to leave Valdris with enough gold to live comfortably for the rest of your days. We will not force you, Senya. We cannot force you. The bond must be real, or it means nothing. So I am not a prisoner? You are a guest. Rain reached out, his fingers hovering near her hand, but not touching. A hope, a prayer made flesh, but never a prisoner. Senya looked around the circle at these 5 powerful men who were admitting their weakness, their desperation, and their impending deaths. They could have lied to her. They could have manipulated her. Instead, they had laid their truth bare and left the choice in her hands. It was more respect than anyone had shown her in years. "I will try." The words left her mouth before she fully decided to say them. "I cannot promise love. I do not know if my heart is even capable of it anymore, but I will try." Something shifted in the air, something that felt like hope. Rain's fingers finally touched hers, just barely, the lightest brush of skin. And for the first time in 3 moons, Senya felt her wolf stir. Not much, just a flicker. But it was there. She looked up at the 5 kings, her fate now tangled with theirs. "So," she said quietly, "how do we begin?" The bonding trials began the following morning. Senya had expected something formal, ceremonial perhaps, with witnesses and rituals and ancient words spoken over sacred flames. Instead, Caius handed her a schedule written in his precise hand. 1 king per day, he explained. Private time to know each other without the pressure of the others watching. At the end of the week, we will assess whether any bonds have begun to form. Senya stared at the parchment. And if they haven't? Then we try again. Caius's golden eyes held a desperate optimism. We keep trying until we run out of time. The first name on the list was Rain. She found him in the healing wing of the palace, surrounded by the scent of herbs and honey. He was bent over a young servant girl, his hands glowing faintly as he worked something invisible beneath her skin. "Just breathe," he murmured to the child. "The poison is almost out." Senya watched in fascination as the girl's gray pallor slowly returned to healthy pink. When Rain finally lifted his hands, the child threw her arms around his neck. "Thank you, my king." "Rest now, little one." Rain's smile was warm enough to heat the entire room. "And tell your brother that if he dares you to eat strange berries again, I will have words with him." The girl scampered off, and Rain finally turned to face Senya. His smile shifted into something more vulnerable. "You came. The schedule said I must. The schedule said you could." He wiped his hands on a cloth, removing traces of the healing light. "There is a difference." He was right. She could have refused, could have hidden in her chambers and claimed illness. But something had drawn her here, a curiosity she could not quite name. "What was wrong with her?" Senya asked, nodding toward the door the child had disappeared through. "Serpent berries. They grow wild in the eastern forests. Beautiful to look at. Deadly to consume." Rain gestured toward a door at the back of the room. "Walk with me?" She followed him through the door and into a garden that was entirely different from last night's wild beauty. This one was cultivated, organized, row upon row of plants labeled with careful precision. "My private garden," Rain explained, "where I grow everything needed for healing." "You truly are a healer." Senya had thought it might be merely a title, not just a name. "It is what I love most." Rain knelt beside a plant with silver leaves, his fingers careful as he checked the soil. "Castian has his ice, Varen has his shadows, Caius has his knowledge, Fenrin has his fire. And I have this, the ability to mend what is broken." He looked up at her, something flickering in his warm eyes. "It is why the curse tortures me so cruelly. I can heal anyone, anything, except myself. Except my brothers. I feel them dying, Senya. Every day I feel their lives slipping away, and my gift is useless against it." The pain in his voice made her chest ache. She knelt beside him without thinking, her knees sinking into the soft earth. "Tell me about them," she said quietly. "Your brothers. Who are they, truly?" Rain's surprise was evident. "You wish to know? If I am to bond with all of you, should I not understand who you are?" Something softened in his expression, a gratitude that went deeper than words. Castian is the eldest, he began. He was not always cold. When we were children, he laughed more than any of us. But our father died young, killed by the curse before Castian had seen 15 summers. He became king overnight, became responsible for an entire kingdom, for 4 younger brothers, for a curse that was slowly eating us alive. Rain plucked a leaf from the silver plant, rolling it between his fingers. The cold is not cruelty, he continued. It is armor. He froze his heart because feeling meant suffering, and he could not afford to suffer when so many depended on him. And Varen? The second-born. He was our protector. When raiders came from the northern wastes, Varen rode out to meet them alone. He was 16. Rain's voice grew heavy. He won. But the scars he carries, inside and out, never healed. He stopped speaking after that. Words felt too small for what he had experienced. Senya thought of Varen's silence, his dark eyes that seemed to hold entire oceans of pain. Caius, third-born, the brilliant one. He believed that knowledge could solve anything, including the curse. He has spent his entire life studying, researching, and searching for answers. The cracks in his eyes, the fragmentation of his mind, it began when he tried to read a forbidden text about the Pale Mother herself. The knowledge burned him, but he kept reading. For us. Always for us. Fenrin? Rain's smile turned fond despite the sorrow. The fourth. Our fire. Our chaos. He laughs the loudest and burns the brightest because he knows his time is shortest. The curse affects him the most violently. He has perhaps 2 summers before the fire consumes him entirely, though he tells everyone it is more. And you? Senya asked softly. Who is Rain? He paused, the leaf crumbling to dust in his fingers. I am the youngest, he said finally. The one who came after the curse had already begun to consume my brothers. I watched them suffer my entire life. I developed my gift hoping to save them. His voice cracked. I have failed, Senya. Every single day for 23 years, I have failed. Without thinking, Senya reached out and took his hand. The touch sent a jolt through both of them. Rain's breath caught, his eyes widening as something flickered between their palms, a warmth that was neither his healing light nor the ordinary heat of skin. You feel that? He whispered. Senya nodded, unable to speak. That is the beginning. Rain's thumb traced across her knuckles, his touch feather light. Not the bond, not yet. But the potential for one. He looked at her with such hope, such desperate yearning that she felt her walls crack just slightly. I was rejected. The words spilled out before she could stop them. On my mating night, I stood before my entire pack expecting to feel the bond snap into place, expecting to finally belong to someone, and instead, nothing. Just emptiness. Rain's hand tightened around hers. He called me defective in front of everyone, broken, worthless. Her voice trembled, and part of me believed him. Part of me still believes him. Then that part is wrong. Rain's voice was fierce despite its softness. You are not defective, Senya. You are extraordinary. The prophecy does not choose ordinary souls. The prophecy could be wrong. It is not wrong. He lifted her hand, pressing her palm against his chest, directly over his heart. Feel this. My wolf recognizes you. Even dying, even fading, he knows you are meant for us. Beneath her palm, she felt his heartbeat, steady and strong. And something else. Something deeper. A presence reaching toward her, wounded and weary but still fighting. His wolf. And in the depths of her chest, that impossible flicker stirred again. She moved, Senya breathed. My wolf. She actually moved. Rain's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Keep feeling, he whispered. Keep letting us in. She will wake, Senya. When she is ready, When you are ready, she will wake. They knelt together in the healing garden, her hand pressed against his heart, his hope bleeding into her like medicine into a wound. For the first time since her rejection, Senya allowed herself to wonder if perhaps she was not broken after all. Perhaps she was simply waiting for the right ones to help her become whole. The days blurred together in a rhythm that Senya slowly began to welcome. Each morning brought a new king. Each king brought a new piece of himself, laid bare for her to examine. Caius took her to his library on the second day, a room so vast it had its own weather, clouds drifting near the ceiling, conjured by a weather witch centuries ago. He read to her in ancient languages, his fractured eyes lighting up whenever she asked questions. "You are curious," he observed with delight. "So few people are anymore." "How can I not be? You have answers to everything here." "Not the one answer that matters." His expression darkened. "I spent 32 years trying to break the curse without the prophecy. I failed." Senya took his hand. "Then teach me everything. If I am to fight this thing, I must understand it." His smile transformed his face. They talked until moonrise. On the third day, Varen found her at breakfast. He did not speak. He simply appeared at her table, his scarred face unreadable, and placed a small wooden wolf beside her plate. It was carved with incredible detail, every strand of fur visible, every muscle defined. Then he walked away. Senya caught up with him in the corridor. "Did you make this?" He nodded once. "It is beautiful." Something flickered in his dark eyes. Not quite a smile, but close. He held out his hand. Senya hesitated only a moment before taking it. Varen led her through the castle in silence, through passages she hadn't known existed, down stairs that spiraled into the mountain itself. Finally, they emerged into a cavern lit by phosphorescent moss, the walls covered in carvings that took her breath away. Wolves, hundreds of them, thousands, running, hunting, playing, sleeping, an entire history carved into stone. "You did all of this?" Senya whispered. Varen nodded. "When words fail me," he said slowly, each word clearly costing him effort, "stone speaks." It was the most she had ever heard him say. She spent the entire day in that cavern, watching him carve, asking questions he answered with gestures or single words, or sometimes just by guiding her hands along the stone to feel what he meant. By evening, she understood him better than people she had known for years. On the fourth day, Fenrin practically kidnapped her. Enough serious conversations. He threw her over his shoulder before she finished her morning tea, ignoring her shriek of protest. "Today, we run." They ran through the forest surrounding Valdris, Fenrin in his massive red wolf form, and Senya on foot because her wolf still slept. But he matched his pace to hers, circling back whenever she fell behind, nudging her with his warm nose whenever she stopped to catch her breath. "This is ridiculous," she gasped, collapsed against a tree after 3 hours. "I cannot keep up with a wolf." Fenrin shifted back, gloriously naked and completely unbothered by it. "You kept up better than most," he said, grinning. "And your wolf stirred twice." "I felt it." Senya froze. "You felt my wolf?" "Fire recognizes fire, little storm." He crouched before her, his wild eyes serious for once. "Your wolf is not dormant. She is made of the same chaos that burns in me. When she wakes, she will be magnificent and terrifying, and I cannot wait to see it." He leaned forward and pressed a kiss to her forehead. The heat that flooded through her had nothing to do with the run. On the fifth day, Castian found her at dawn. She had expected him to be the hardest to reach, the coldest, the most distant. Instead, he took her to the highest tower and showed her the sunrise painting the mountains in shades of rose and gold. "This is my favorite view," he said quietly. "I come here when the ice grows too heavy, when I forget why I keep fighting." Senya stood beside him, close enough to feel the chill radiating from his skin. Does it help? Sometimes. He was silent for a long moment. You remind me of the sunrise. Senya blinked. I do? Warmth against the cold. He still wasn't looking at her. Hope against despair. Something beautiful emerging from darkness. His jaw tightened. I did not want you here, Senya. When my brothers insisted on finding the prophecy's Omega, I argued against it. I said it was cruel to put such weight on a single woman's shoulders. But you came to the auction. I came because they would have gone without me, and I could not let them face that without me. Finally he turned, those gray winter eyes meeting hers. I was wrong to doubt. You are stronger than I expected. More resilient. More. He trailed off, his gaze dropping to her lips before snapping back to her eyes. I am afraid of you, he admitted, the confession clearly costing him everything. Not of what you are, of what you make me feel. The ice is my armor, Senya, and you make it melt. Senya reached up, her hand hovering near his cheek. May I? He nodded, barely perceptible. She touched his face. The cold was intense, nearly painful, but she didn't pull away. Beneath the frost, she felt something stirring, something that wanted desperately to be warm. I will not hurt you, she whispered. I know you have no reason to believe that. But I will not hurt you, Castian. Something cracked behind his eyes. Not the ice. Something deeper. Something that had been frozen for far too long. I want to believe you, he said, his voice rough. Gods help me, I want to believe you. That night, all 5 kings came to her chambers, not for anything improper. They simply stayed. Rain brought tea. Caius brought books. Varin brought his carving tools. Fenrin brought warmth. And Castian brought himself, which Senya was beginning to understand was the greatest gift he could offer. They talked and laughed and argued and fell silent together. And somewhere in those quiet hours, Senya felt it happen. Her walls crumbled. She looked around at these 5 broken kings who had shown her their wounds without shame, who had trusted her with their weaknesses, who had treated her like something precious when everyone else had treated her like garbage. And she realized, with terrifying clarity, that she was beginning to love them. Not fully. Not completely. The bond had not snapped into place, but the foundation was forming, brick by brick, moment by moment. You are all ridiculous, she announced, breaking a comfortable silence. 5 sets of eyes turned to her. Absolutely ridiculous. Cursed kings with tragic backstories and terrible timing, and somehow still the kindest men I have ever known. Fenrin's grin split his face. Did she just call us kind? I think she's finally lost her mind. Hush! Rain elbowed him. She is being sincere. I am being truthful. Senya met each of their gazes in turn. And the truth is that I did not choose this. You bought me from an auction. You told me I was prophesied. You asked me to save your lives with love. Their expressions flickered with uncertainty. But you also gave me choice, she continued. You showed me respect. You let me see you, truly see you, without masks or pretense. And she took a breath. I am beginning to care for you, all of you, differently but equally, and that terrifies me. Why? Castian's voice was barely audible. Because the last time I cared for someone, he rejected me in front of everyone I knew. The last time I opened my heart, it was broken into pieces so small I did not think they could ever fit together again. She looked down at her hands. But my wolf stirs when you are near. All of you. And she has not stirred for anyone in 3 moons. The silence that followed was thick with emotion. Then Varen moved. He crossed the room, knelt before her chair, and took her hands in his massive scarred ones. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His dark eyes held hers with an intensity that said everything. "We will not reject you." Rain's voice cracked. "Never." "We cannot promise that love will be easy," Caius added quietly. "But we can promise that we will never stop trying. And if anyone ever tries to hurt you again," Fenrin's eyes flickered with actual flames, "I will burn them to ash." Castian remained where he was, apart from the others, but his voice carried across the room, low and certain. "You are ours," he said, "and we are yours, for whatever time we have left." Senya looked at these 5 kings, kneeling and standing and waiting for her to decide their fate. "Then let's not waste any more time." She squeezed Varen's hands. "Teach me how to wake my wolf." The ritual chamber lay deep beneath the palace, carved from black stone that seemed to drink the torchlight. Senya stood in the center of a circle of ancient runes, her bare feet cold against the floor. The 5 kings surrounded her, each positioned at a point of a star pattern that glowed faintly silver. This ritual was designed by the first court witch, Caius explained, his fractured eyes scanning the runes with scholarly intensity. It was meant to awaken dormant wolves in pups who showed no signs of shifting. It has not been used in 3 centuries. "Because it is dangerous," Castian added, his voice flat. "The records show a 30% mortality rate." "You failed to mention that earlier." Senya's heart hammered against her ribs. "Would it have changed your mind?" She considered the question. The answer, she realized, was no. "Begin," she said. The kings closed their eyes. Power began to flow from them, visible streams of energy in 5 different colors: white from Castian, black from Varen, gold from Caius, crimson from Fenrin, and deep green from Rain. The streams converged on Senya, wrapping around her like ribbons of light. The sensation was overwhelming. She felt Castian's ice first, a cold so profound it reached into her bones. Then Varen's shadows, heavy and ancient, pressing against her consciousness. Caius's knowledge flooded in next, centuries of wisdom threatening to drown her thoughts. Fenrin's fire roared through her veins, burning away the cold only to be soothed by Rain's healing warmth. And beneath it all, something stirred. Not gently this time, not a flicker or a twitch. Her wolf surged upward with a force that knocked Senya to her knees. Pain exploded through every nerve. She screamed, her voice echoing off the black stone walls. Her spine arched, her fingers clawed at the ground, and something deep inside her shattered into 1,000 pieces. "Senya!" Rain broke from his position, rushing toward her. "Stay back." Caius grabbed his arm. "If you interrupt the ritual now, you will kill her." Rain's anguished cry was lost beneath another of Senya's screams. The wolf was not just waking, she was clawing her way out of a prison that had held her for 22 years. Every suppressed instinct, every denied heat, every buried power came flooding back at once. Senya's body began to shift. It was not the smooth transformation she had witnessed in other wolves. This was violent, wrong, her bones breaking and reforming in ways that should have been impossible. First sprouted in patches, then receded. Her jaw elongated, then snapped back. "Something is blocking her." Castian's cold voice cut through the chaos. "There is a seal. Someone sealed her wolf deliberately." "Who would do such a thing?" Fenrin's flames flickered with rage. "Find out later." Varen's rough voice was strained. "Help her now." The 5 kings poured more power into the ritual. Senya felt their combined strength wrap around the seal, testing its boundaries, searching for weaknesses. The seal fought back. Images flooded her mind, a woman with her face, but older, sadder. Her mother, standing in a room of white stone, arguing with a figure cloaked in shadow. "You cannot seal her forever," the shadow said. "The wolf prime blood will wake eventually. Then I will give her time." Her mother's voice was desperate. Time to grow strong enough to survive it. Time to find those who will protect her when it happens. The Pale Mother will come for her. Then I will hide her so completely that even the Pale Mother cannot find her." The shadow laughed, a sound like ice cracking. "You cannot hide from me, Lysara, and neither can your daughter." The vision shattered. Senya gasped as the seal crumbled, destroyed by the combined force of 5 kings and her own desperate will to survive. Her wolf exploded into existence, the shift completed in an instant. One moment she was a woman on her knees, the next she was a wolf unlike any the kings had ever seen. Her fur was silver white, shot through with veins of gold that pulsed like living light. She was larger than any Omega should be, nearly matching the Alpha Kings in size. And her eyes, when she opened them, burned with a fire that was not red or orange, but pure, brilliant white. "Wolf Prime," Caius breathed. The legends were true. Senya's wolf threw back her head and howled. The sound shook the mountain. Above them, in the palace, windows cracked. In the village below, every wolf dropped to their knees. Across the kingdom, in dens and caves and forests, wolves stopped what they were doing and turned toward Valdris. The Wolf Prime had awakened. And somewhere far away, in a realm between worlds, something ancient and hungry opened its eyes. "She knows," the Pale Mother whispered. "My prey has finally emerged." Days of fragile happiness followed, stretching into a week, then beyond. Her wolf's awakening had done something unexpected. It had slowed the curse's progression, buying them precious time none of them had dared hope for. Senya's wolf had changed everything. She could shift now, run with Fenrin through the forests, and hunt with Varin in the moonlit mountains. Her power grew daily, her connection to the 5 kings deepening with every shared moment. The bonds were forming. Not complete, not yet, but close. She could feel each king in the back of her mind, Castian's cold clarity, Varen's steady strength, Caius's racing thoughts, Fenrin's burning passion, Rain's healing warmth. They were becoming part of her, and she was becoming part of them. "I love you," Fenrin said one night, the words tumbling out as they lay tangled together after a run. "All of us do. But I needed to say it first." Senya's heart swelled. "Fenrin, you don't have to say it back." His wild eyes were serious for once. "Not until you're ready. I just needed you to know." She kissed him instead of answering, pouring everything she felt into the contact. Rain found them later, curled together by the fire. She is glowing," he observed softly. "Have you noticed? Ever since her wolf woke, she glows." Senya looked down at her hands. He was right. A faint luminescence had begun to emanate from her skin, visible only in darkness, growing stronger each day. "Wolf Prime blood," Caius explained when she asked. "Your ancestors were the first wolves, created from starlight and shadow. That light lives in you now, awakened after generations of dormancy." "Is it dangerous?" "It is powerful." Caius's fractured eyes held hers. "Power is only dangerous when wielded without wisdom." The days blurred together, training with Castian, who taught her to channel her power with precision. Reading with Caius, who showed her the histories of her bloodline. Carving with Varin, whose silence had become a comfort rather than a barrier. Running with Fenrin, whose fire matched something wild in her own soul. Healing with Rain, whose tenderness reminded her that strength could be soft. And slowly, surely, she began to love them. Not because she had to. Not because prophecy demanded it. Because they had shown her who they truly were, and she had found them worthy. It was Castian who finally broke through her last wall. They stood together in his tower at midnight, watching snow fall over the mountains. The frost beneath his skin had stopped spreading, she noticed. Her warmth was holding it at bay. "I never thanked you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For trying. For staying. For not running when you learned what we are." He turned to face her, and for once his gray eyes held warmth instead of ice. I have spent my entire life preparing to die. I had accepted it, made peace with it. His hand found hers. You made me want to live, Senya. For the first time in 20 years, I want to live. She stepped closer, pressing her palm against his chest. Then live, she whispered. For me, for your brothers, for the kingdom you have sacrificed everything to protect. I would need a reason. His voice was rough, a reason stronger than duty or fear. What reason? His free hand cupped her face, his touch cold, but impossibly tender. Love, he breathed. I have never said the word aloud. I was taught that speaking it would accelerate the curse, would bring the pale mother's attention. His thumb traced her cheekbone. But I am saying it now. I love you, Senya. I love you. And I am terrified and I do not care. Senya's eyes filled with tears. I love you too, she whispered. All of you. I love all of you. The moment the words left her mouth, everything changed. Light exploded from her chest. Pure, white, burning light that flooded the tower and spilled out into the night. She heard the other kings cry out somewhere below, felt their bonds with her flare into sudden, brilliant completion. The mate bond snapped into place. Not one bond. 5. 5 threads of golden light connecting her heart to theirs, weaving together into something stronger than any single bond could ever be. It worked, Castian gasped. The prophecy, it actually... He stopped. The temperature plummeted. Senya's breath fogged in the air as frost began to creep across the windows, the walls, the floor. But this was not Castian's ice. This was something older, something wrong. A voice echoed through the tower, ancient and amused. Did you truly think I would let you escape so easily? The shadows in the corner of the room began to move. They gathered, coalesced, took form. A woman stepped out of the darkness. She was beautiful in the way that death was beautiful, pale skin stretched over sharp bones, white hair flowing like mist, eyes that were entirely black, no iris, no white, just endless void. The pale mother, Senya breathed. The thief's daughter. The entity smiled, revealing teeth that were slightly too sharp. I have waited so long for you to wake. Castian moved between them, ice forming along his arms. You cannot be here. The wards were designed to keep me out while the curse remained intact. The pale mother laughed, a sound like breaking glass. But your little Omega just shattered the curse. Did you not realize? The bonds that freed you also freed me. Horror flooded through Senya. No, that cannot be right. The prophecy said the broken one would choose, to save them or to burn them. The pale mother's smile widened. It never said which choice she would make. She raised one pale hand. Thank you, little wolf, for giving me access to what I have craved for 1,000 years. 5 kings bound by love, their hearts open, their souls connected. Her dark eyes gleamed with hunger. I am going to consume all of you, and it is going to be delicious. Power exploded from her palm. It hit Senya's chest like a battering ram, driving her backward into Castian. She felt something tear inside her, felt the mate bonds scream with sudden agony. Through those bonds, she felt her kings falling. Castian hit the ground beside her, frost spreading rapidly across his entire body. In the rooms below, she felt Varan dissolving into shadows that he could not pull back. Caius's mind splintered, his consciousness fragmenting into 1,000 pieces. Fenrin's fire turned inward, burning him from within. And rain, gentle rain, simply stopped. His heart ceased beating. No! Senya screamed. She tried to rise, tried to fight, but the pale mother's power pinned her to the ground. Do not struggle, child. The entity crouched beside her, one cold finger tracing down her cheek. It will be over soon, and then you will join them in the dark. Senya's vision began to fade. The last thing she saw was the pale mother's smile. The last thing she felt was her wolves dying. Darkness. Cold. Silence. Senya floated in nothing, her consciousness untethered and her body far away. Is this death? She wondered. Not yet, a voice answered. Senya turned, though she had no body to turn with. A figure stood in the void, a woman made of starlight, her features achingly familiar. Mother? Lysera smiled, and it was like watching the sun rise. My brave girl. Her voice echoed strangely, as if coming from very far away. You have come so far. But the journey is not over. The pale mother, Senya gasped. She is killing them. I have to. You have to wake. Lysara moved closer, her starlight form flickering. But first, you must understand what you are. A wolf prime. Caius told me. He told you part of it. Lysara's eyes, so like her own, held ancient sorrow. The wolf primes were guardians, keepers of balance between worlds. When the pale mother first crossed into our realm, a wolf prime sealed her away. That seal was tied to our bloodline. Then how is she here now? Because I was the last. Lysara's form flickered, fading. I sealed your powers to hide you, to give you time to grow strong. But now you have awakened. Now you must finish what our ancestors began. How? Senya's voice cracked. She is ancient, powerful. I am just... You are not just anything. Lysara's voice hardened with fierce pride. You are my daughter. You are bound to 5 kings whose love for you burns brighter than any curse, and you carry the fire of creation itself in your blood. Fire? The wolf primes were not made of starlight alone. Lysara began to fade, her form dissolving at the edges. We were forged in the heart of the first sun. Fire is your birthright, Senya. Not the red fire of destruction, but the white fire of creation. The fire that births stars and burns away darkness. Senya felt something stir in her chest, something that had been sleeping even deeper than her wolf. Use it, Lysara whispered, nearly gone now. Save them. Save yourself. And burn that creature back to the void where she belongs. Mother, wait. But Lysara was gone. And Senya was falling back toward her body, toward pain, toward war. She hit consciousness like a meteor hitting ground. Her eyes snapped open. The pale mother still crouched over her, but something had shifted. The entity's face was twisted with confusion, then fear. What is this? She hissed. What are you doing? Senya looked down at herself. She was glowing. Not the faint luminescence of recent weeks, but a blinding radiance that pushed back the pale mother's shadows. White fire danced along her skin, painless, powerful, and ancient beyond measure. I am doing what my mother did. Senya rose to her feet, the pale mother scrambling backward. What every wolf prime before me has done. She reached for the mate bonds, those 5 golden threads that connected her to her kings. They were fading, dimming as death crept closer. No, not today. She poured her fire into those bonds. Poured her love, her hope, her desperate will to save them. In the rooms below, Varen's shadows solidified. Caius's mind snapped back together. Fenrin's internal fire cooled to survivable temperatures, and Rain's heart began to beat again. But Castian, closest to the pale mother's initial strike, remained frozen. He is too far gone, the pale mother snarled, recovering her composure. You cannot save him. The ice has reached his heart. Senya turned to face the entity, white fire blazing in her eyes. Watch me. She crossed the room in 3 strides, dropping to her knees beside Castian's frozen form. He was completely encased now, his skin blue, his eyes closed, his chest still. Castian. She pressed her burning hands against his chest. Come back to me. The fire flowed into him, She felt it meet the ice, felt the centuries-old curse fight back with everything it had. "You are too late," the pale mother laughed. "He is mine. He has always been mine." "He is mine," Senya roared. The fire exploded. White flames engulfed both her and Castienne, so bright that the pale mother shrieked and threw up her arms to shield her void dark eyes. The ice hissed and cracked, steam flooding the room. Through the bond, Senya felt Castienne's heart stutter. Once. Twice. "Please," she sobbed, pressing her forehead to his. "Please, please, please." The third beat was stronger, the fourth stronger still. And then Castienne gasped, his eyes flying open, gray irises flooding with warmth for the first time in his entire life. "Senya," he breathed. She kissed him, tasting life and love and victory. Behind her, the pale mother screamed, "This is not over! I will return! I will—" "No." Senya rose, turning to face the entity. "You will not." She gathered every ounce of fire in her blood, every spark of power her mother had left her, every drop of love the 5 kings had poured into her soul, and she unleashed it all. The white fire hit the pale mother like a tidal wave. The entity shrieked, her form dissolving, her power shattering against something older and stronger than anything she had ever faced. "Impossible!" she wailed. "You are nothing. You are broken. You are—" "I am loved," Senya said simply, "and you are finished." The fire burned hotter. The pale mother's screams reached a crescendo. And then, with a final flash of blinding light, she was gone. The room fell silent. Senya swayed on her feet, the fire fading, exhaustion crashing over her. Strong arms caught her before she could fall. Castian held her close, his body warm and his heart beating steadily against hers. "You saved us," he whispered. "We saved each other." The door burst open. 4 kings rushed in, alive, whole, their curses visibly lifting. Varen was solid, Caius's eyes clear, Fenrin's temperature stable, Rain's color healthy. They surrounded her, all 5 of them, their combined warmth wrapping around her like a blanket. "Is she gone?" Rain asked. "Truly gone?" Senya nodded, too tired for words. "The curse?" Fenrin's voice held desperate hope. Senya reached for the bonds, for the place where the curse had lived for 1,000 years. She found only light. "Broken," she managed. "Forever." 5 kings collapsed around her, holding her, weeping, laughing, alive. Against all odds, they had won. The celebrations lasted for 7 days. Word spread across the kingdom like wildfire. The curse was broken. The Pale Mother was destroyed. The 5 kings would live. And they had taken a queen, a wolf prime, a legend made flesh. Senya spent most of those 7 days sleeping. The battle had drained her completely. She woke only for brief moments, to drink the broth Rain pressed to her lips, to feel Castien's now warm hand holding hers, to hear Fenrin's terrible jokes that made her smile despite her exhaustion. On the 8th day, she finally woke fully. All 5 of them were there, arranged around her bed in various states of watchfulness. Varen sat nearest, carving something small. Caius had fallen asleep in a chair, a book open on his chest. Fenrin sprawled across the foot of the bed, snoring softly. Rain dozed in a second chair, healing herbs still clutched in his hand, and Castien stood by the window, watching the sunrise. He turned when she stirred. "She wakes." His voice held a warmth that still surprised her, even now. The others roused immediately, surrounding her with hands and voices and overwhelming concern. "How do you feel? Does anything hurt? Are you hungry? Thirsty?" "I'm fine," she managed, her voice rusty from disuse. "Just tired, and perhaps a little hungry." Fenrin was gone before she finished the sentence, racing toward the kitchens. The others helped her sit up, arranging pillows behind her with almost comical care. "What happened?" she asked. "After I collapsed?" You collapsed? Rain's hand found hers. You have been asleep for 8 days. 8 days? We were worried. Varen's rough voice held more emotion than she had ever heard from him. Very worried. Castian crossed to the bed, sitting on the edge beside her. The kingdom knows what you did, he said quietly. What you sacrificed to save us. They have been lighting candles for your recovery in every village, every town, every home across Valdris. Senya's eyes filled with tears. I did what needed to be done. You did more than that. Caius leaned forward, his golden eyes clear and whole. You changed everything. The curse is gone, Senya. Not just suppressed, not just held at bay. Gone. Our children, our children's children, they will never know the weight we carried. Children? Senya's cheeks flushed. Rain smiled. Eventually. There is no rush. Fenrir returned with a tray piled high with food, far more than one person could ever eat. He set it on the bed with a flourish. Eat. Then we talk about the future. The future? The kingdom needs a coronation. Castian's hand covered hers. 5 kings must formally present their queen. And the queen must decide, Caius added, how she wishes to be presented. Senya frowned. What do you mean? You are a wolf prime. Varen's dark eyes held hers. The first in generations. You could rule in your own right if you wished. You do not need us. The statement hung in the air. Senya looked around at these 5 men who had shown her their wounds and trusted her with their lives, who had loved her when they believed they were incapable of love, who had fought beside her against an ancient evil and emerged victorious. I do not need you, she agreed slowly. Something flickered in their eyes. Fear, resignation. But I want you. She smiled. All of you. Forever. The relief that flooded the room was palpable. Fenrir kissed her soundly, then passed her to Rain, who kissed her softly, then to Caius, who kissed her with scholarly precision, then to Varen, who kissed her with silent intensity, and finally to Castian, who kissed her with all the warmth he had been denied for 30 years. Then it is settled. Castian pulled back, his gray eyes shining. You will be our queen. Your partner, Senya corrected. Your equal. Your mate. All of those things. He pressed his forehead to hers. And more. The coronation took place on the first day of spring. Senya stood before the 5 thrones, wearing a gown that shimmered with all 5 colors of the towers: white, black, gold, crimson, and green. Her silver gold hair was woven with flowers from Rain's garden. Her mother's necklace hung at her throat, recovered from the ruins of her childhood home. The great hall was packed with witnesses. Nobles and commoners alike had traveled from across the kingdom to see the Wolf Prime crowned. Among them, Senya spotted familiar faces. Darinya, the scarred Omega from the auction, now serving as Senya's lady-in-waiting. Calix, the pregnant Omega, now safely housed in the palace with her healthy baby girl. And at the back of the hall, under heavy guard, stood Aldrich. Her former betrothed had been dragged to Valdris in chains 3 weeks ago. Castian had kept his promise about remembering who to kill first, but Senya had asked for mercy, not for Aldrich's sake, but for her own. She would not begin her reign with blood. Aldrich would spend the rest of his life in the northern mines, working alongside the criminals and traitors he had always looked down upon. It was, she thought, a fitting fate. The ceremony began. Each king rose from his throne to speak his vows. I, Castian, first of the 5 kings of Valdris, do swear my heart, my throne, and my eternal loyalty to Senya, Wolf Prime, breaker of curses and savior of our bloodline. He placed a crown of ice crystals upon her head, the frost warm against her skin. From this day until my last I am hers. I, Varen, second of the 5 kings of Valdris, do swear my strength, my silence, and my eternal protection to Senya. He added a circlet of shadow-forged silver to the crown. From this day until my last, I am hers. I, Caius, third of the 5 kings of Valdris, do swear my knowledge, my wisdom, and my eternal counsel to Senya. He placed a golden diadem among the other pieces. From this day until my last, I am hers. I, Fenrin, fourth of the 5 kings of Valdris, do swear my fire, my passion, and my eternal devotion to Senya. He added a band of crimson rubies. From this day until my last, I am hers. I, Rain, fifth of the 5 kings of Valdris, do swear my healing, my heart, and my eternal love to Senya. He completed the crown with a wreath of living emerald vines. From this day until my last, I am hers. The crown upon her head was heavy with promise, beautiful with meaning. Senya turned to face the assembled crowd. I accept these vows, she said, her voice carrying through the hall, and I offer my own in return. She had written these words herself, in the quiet hours before dawn, while her king slept around her. I was broken once, cast out, rejected. I was told I was worthless, defective, unworthy of love. The hall was utterly silent. I believed those words for a long time. I let them define me, limit me, keep me small. She lifted her chin. But I am not broken anymore. I am whole. Not because 5 kings chose me, but because I chose to stop believing the lies. Her gaze swept the crowd, finding every Omega, every outcast, and every soul who had ever been told they were not enough. If you have been rejected, know this. Rejection is not destiny. Your worth is not determined by those who cannot see it. You are enough. You have always been enough. And somewhere, someday, you will find those who recognize your value. She turned back to her kings. I found mine. Against all odds, against prophecy and curse and ancient evil, I found mine. And I will spend the rest of my life being worthy of them. She descended the steps to stand among them, not above them. I am Senya, Wolf Prime, Queen of Valdris, and I am exactly where I belong. The hall erupted into cheers. 3 moons later, as summer warmed the mountains and wildflowers bloomed in every valley, Senya stood in the garden where everything had begun. Her hand rested on her belly, where new life had just begun to grow. The 5 kings surrounded her, as they always did now, their bonds humming with contentment. Are you happy? Rain asked softly. Senya looked at the kingdom spread before her, at the towers that now welcomed her as home, at the 5 men who had become her entire world. I am, she said. And for the first time in her life, she truly meant it.